Hi, good morning, friends. Coffee with PC time. I do have my coffee and my same old Star Wars cup. Today I am drinking coffee from Peru. Denise for Christmas got me the Atlas Coffee Club. Every month get a new thing of coffee. I'm like a dark roast kind of coffee. This is Peru, and yeah, it's good. It's a little bitter for my taste, but I'm going to drink it all because coffee, right? Hope you're enjoying your morning cup of coffee this morning. I wanted to touch base with you today again. Do this just to kind of give you a preview of where we're going to start going on Sunday. It's a very unique time for us right now because we can't get together, as you know. We're being encouraged to not have any gatherings, to maintain social distancing and all of that sort of thing. And that affects us in church. And it's unique for us because we take for granted that every Sunday we can go to worship. We can go to the church and do the things that we're in the habit and the rhythm of doing. And right now that those habits and those rhythms of our life have got to be feeling off. They're feeling off for me. Maybe they're feeling off for you. I mean, for instance, today is Friday and TGIF. A lot of us end of the work week, but for many of you, you're not working, or you're not working on the same schedule. You're not working at the same office. Maybe you're working remotely, or maybe even if you're not working, you're retired. You're just the normal things you do. You're not doing them, and so it's losing track of time and hard to keep up with days. And we feel that even in the rhythm of our spiritual life as far as gathering. But interestingly enough, we share in this period of time one thing somewhat with the Israelites of the Old Testament, because they did not gather as a people together every week necessarily. They might have their small synagogues and do things in their homes, but their gatherings that they look forward to were much less frequent. In fact, they were just 2 or 3 times a year during the most important holidays for them, that they would take a pilgrimage to the city of Jerusalem to go to the temple and there be together with several thousand, several 100,000 people to worship God, to offer their sacrifices. And one thing that helped mark that time, it was a joyful time, that they would go through a particular set of scripture on their way to Jerusalem. It's several verses, or excuse me, several chapters in the book of Psalms 120 through 134. They're called the Psalms of Ascent. The reason they're called the Psalms of Ascent is because all the pilgrims on the way to Jerusalem would sing them. And if you're familiar with some of the ways, usually in the scripture in the Old Testament, when it talks about going to Jerusalem, you go up to Jerusalem because Jerusalem sat on a hill. So the Song of Ascents. We'll talk more about why they were called that on Sunday as well. But I wanted to read the first verse of the very first Psalm of Ascent, Psalm 120, verse 1. When I opened it up to read it, this is what it says: I call on the Lord in my distress, and he answers me. Seems like a pretty appropriate verse of scripture for these days. I call on the Lord in my distress, and he answers me. I know many of us are distressed. There are things that have us on edge and a little anxious. Certainly the reality of the numbers of people with the virus continue to go up. You probably are watching the news. I don't need to remind you of those numbers. They're a little frightening at times, whether it's worldwide or in the U.S. or even here in Monroe County. Those numbers going up, that can cause you a little anxiety. Maybe it's things that you need for your household that you're having a harder time finding. Some of us go to the store. Maybe you need this or that, and it's just not there today, and then that just kind of breeds anxiety. Am I going to be able to get it? When can I get it? And those are tough times, and they cause distress. But here's another thing. That word distress in Psalm 120, verse 1, the Hebrew word has a particular meaning. It means to be in a tight place, to be closed in. And isn't that accurate to what we're feeling right now? Isn't that accurate to what we're being asked to do right now? To find ourselves kind of enclosed, to be in a tight space. We even say when we're at home a lot, we say we might be going stir crazy, or the walls are closing in on us because we just don't want to be in that space anymore. That's almost literally what that word distress means. And the psalmists say, I will call on the Lord in my distress, when things begin to put the pressure, when the walls begin to close in, I will call on the Lord in my distress. And notice it says, and he answers me. Not he might, but he answers me. Call on the Lord in your distress, and he answers me. We have the privilege, because of what Jesus has done for us, that we can approach the very throne of grace with confidence. And so I encourage you to do that. When you feel that distress, that anxiety kind of closing in, take to heart the words of the psalmist and these psalms of ascent and call upon the Lord and allow him to answer you and to give you his peace and his grace. Well, thanks for being a part of this again. We'll be together on Sunday through our normal stream, and then next week we'll catch up again over, you guessed it, Coffee with PC. Bye-bye.